It's a Monday and it's about 10 o'clock, and so it must be time for relaxing painting with Dice and Dungeons. And believe it or not, today we'll be painting, and it might even be somewhat relaxing. Um, Here in the United States, this is a holiday. It's Labor Day, which means that I should be taking the day off and not doing anything that resembles work like this, right? But I know that some people just watch this on YouTube and they could care less what day it is because they can watch it whatever time or day they want. And a lot of people who show up and chat are from Europe or even Asia, and they're not celebrating a holiday today because this is a U.S. holiday anyway. So I thought I'd do at least some work today. It's going to be a shorter session, probably abbreviated because we are actually doing some Dungeons and Dragons stuff in the early afternoon today. Because it's a holiday, some people have off from work, and so we can do some things on Monday. And so this will, like I said, this will be probably a shorter session. Maybe I'll go till noon, maybe till 1, maybe till 11, maybe till I'm not sure when, but it's sometime before 2. What I am painting are these guys. These guys, there's a lot of them. See there, you'll see them come out. Nicole, who is a artist, did the prototype, and essentially they're all going to look the same. They're wearing heavy armor, and they're carrying a shield and a baton of some sort. So the color scheme is that the armor is supposed to look kind of worn and rusted. So it's a 3-layer process. It's painted undercoat of brown, and then a very thinned out layer of dark aluminium so that it looks like rusty armor, and then there's an overwash of dark gray wash to make it look all worn and battle beat up. So almost the entire figure is covered, as you can see, in this heavy armor. So it all gets painted brown to begin with. And then there's some leather bits, like the I don't know if you can see it, the glove there and here, and the backs, the armor is only around the front. The leather bits are painted brown, so that all gets painted brown. So essentially, and then they're wearing a gas mask, so there isn't much of a face. So everything is going to get painted brown initially, including the inside of the shield, the back of the shield. Except for like these pants areas, there's you can see it's painted blue, and then there's some little bits on the shoulders. Okay. Well, more like the elbow, where the armor doesn't cover, so those will end up being painted blue. And the beard, which will be painted another color. So, and then at the end, they're wearing a gas mask, and there's like green goggle lenses on them. So I'm going to be painting pretty much everything brown, because that's the undercoat for the armor and the color of the leather gloves and boots, except for these little pants areas, the front of the shield, okay, and the beard and the baton that they're carrying. So there's like 9 or 10 of them in here. I'll be taking them out and putting brown paint all over them. And if I get a little brown paint where the blue is going to be later, that's okay, because that'll get overpainted. So I'll be painting brown, and then I'll be painting the diluted, very thinned out dark aluminium to make it look like a metal. And then I'll be painting the blue, and then I'll be washing it. And then the last thing I'll do is painting the front of the shield. The front of the shields are the only part that aren't just real filthy, because this is like their house sigil, and for some reason they don't care about anything else, but they care about their beard and their shield, the front of the shield. There's detail later. but this initial part is just like brown everywhere. And then diluted aluminum practically everywhere, some blue, probably doing a little brown touch-up on the gloves if I get the metal paint on there. And then the dark wash. The baton is painted bronze, and that's washed too, so that doesn't get... Anyway. What I'll probably get done today is just getting brown on everything, because there's a lot of them. I work much more slowly than Nicole. And so what will take, I've said that before, I'm like 2 or 3 times slower. So she would probably get all of these done just in like a short session today, but I'll get them done by the end of the week anyway. Yeah, so there's 10. Be going through a lot of brown paint. But yeah, eventually, hopefully, they'll end up looking pretty much like this when I'm done with them. Guess we'll see. Take my glasses off so I can see close up. My new follower. Count Milkshake. Oh, that's a good name. Thank you for joining in. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much. And joining in on a holiday like this. So yeah, these minifigs will actually, I believe, show up in our Dungeons and Dragons show. Because, oh, wow, there's a broken baton. I wonder. No, it's just missing. Hadn't noticed that before. They were in here and the part's not in here. But there's supposed to be a head on the baton like that. But this one doesn't have it, so we'll see how that goes. Sometimes this rosin 3D printing is they're kind of brittle, but yeah. Anyway, I'm going to go over each of these a little bit ahead of time. Sometimes there's like little strings and things that are left over from the 3D printing process. And I'll just go over each one before I start putting brown paint on. Put it on this little holder here. I've got 2 of these holders. So I'll paint one, getting brown on everything, which is pretty easy to do, except for like the pants and the beard and the rod. And thank you. Well, I'm glad that it's relaxing. So I'm going to mutter on about what I'm doing as I do it, but then I'll probably also talk about, I don't know, some sort of 1960s phenomenon. And then I'll be gone next week, just to remind everybody, traveling once again, but then I'll be back after that. And assuming these guys are done, I will be going back to the Apollo. And I'm really close to finishing up the descent stage of the lunar module. I just need to put some little bits of foil on the landing pads, because I decided to wrap them in foil like the real thing is. And then I need to do some really delicate assembly. Okay. Well, I'm using this brown paint. There'll be a lot of brown. You're basically going to just be watching me put brown paint practically all over these things. And then everything else is just layering on and then painting on some details a little bit later. So today should be relaxing for me because I'm just using one color, and it doesn't matter where I get it because if it's on a place that isn't going to be brown later, it'll get overpainted. So I kind of like that. I kind of like not having to worry about the detail here. And since I'm doing painting that's going to be really straightforward and not terribly interesting, I do need to think of something to ramble on about. The thing is, after doing this for like forever, I don't know, it's been way over a year since I've been painting this stream. I've done the submarine, I've done the Apollo, I do minifigs of one sort or another. Yes, I'm doing minis. Hi, Ole. Thanks for dropping in. I was saying at the beginning of this is a holiday here in the U.S., but because people who kind of follow this are not in the U.S., I thought I'd go ahead and why not? You know, being retired, I have to say, being retired one day is like any other in some ways. So that this is a holiday doesn't much matter because I can fairly honestly say every day, unless there's an appointment of some sort, you know, is a holiday. Yeah, being retired is kind of interesting that way. There's a real upside to I don't care what day it is. I just have to pay attention to. Is that part of the gas mask? Yeah, I guess it is. Well, if it isn't and it's part of the beard, I can deal with it later. They're wearing these gas masks, and so that's going to be colored the metal color. Anyway, there, brown's going everywhere, including where it shouldn't be later, because I can touch that up later. So this is the relaxing part. It's just making everything brown. And knowing that if at some point in the future it's a different color, then it'll be a different color. This might be a shorter, this might be foreshortened today. Ooh, I'm using that word because last week when we were gone, we were at the Shakespeare Festival in Stratford, Ontario. And so I can say words like foreshortened now. That's exactly right. I have that. I mean, that is true. Is that it seems like the days go by, they're really full. And it's how did I manage to fit in a full-time job with all of this other stuff? So I'm glad they're enjoying their retirement. I know some people have a really hard time being retired. I don't understand that. You know, it's just it's little things. That'll be my ramble today. I'm going to ramble on about how nice it is to. Okay, I know I said I could just slop paint everywhere, but that wasn't exactly true. I don't want to be slopping paint all over the front of the shield. Yeah. But I do know that some people have a very hard time being retired. But I can just tell you about a few things. Like we have a lot of trees where we live, and so in the fall there is the ritual of getting the leaves off of where you don't want them. Okay, and a while ago, it would all be hand raked. It would take two solid days. Well, I'll put it this way: because of working full time, the only time that the leaves could be removed was on weekends. And you'd say, why? Well, because, well, I mean, those of you who are in Europe, in Northern Europe, understand that once you get past, you know, when the leaves fall finally in October, the days are pretty short. And so I would find that getting home from work, getting home from work in the dark, and raking or blowing leaves in the dark wasn't the thing. So it could only be done on weekends. And the that was also the only time to do other things, you know, that required daylight, like other things around the house. And so what I would end up doing is waiting until all the leaves fell and then taking care of them all at one weekend. It would be the entire weekend. I mean, just it was. So, start early in the morning and finish late in the evening, kind of like, from dawn to dusk kind of thing, for 2 solid days to get the leaves up. So why did I wait for all the leaves to fall? Because, if I had just sort of kept up with it as they were falling, it would still take up most of the weekend, because some of it has to do with not the volume of leaves, but how much. It is amazing. He's in a band. He's the youngest is 78. I really hope that when I'm 78, which isn't all that far away, that I well, let's just say I'm not going to be in a band because I have no musical talent, and not being able to play an instrument or sing kind of limits one's usefulness to a band. But that's pretty amazing. I hope I'm that active in a few years when I hit that age, and it's pretty cool that he's doing that. So does his band play, like, do they get gigs? Do they just play for themselves, or do they actually get to play at places? And dare I ask what kind of music they play? Oh, 90. Okay. You have to be impressed by the longevity and health of people there in Denmark. It's really cool. It is just amazing. Yeah, it's too bad Ginger Baker's not available anymore. Okay, well, see, there's everything's kind of brown except like the rod that it's holding, the front of the shield, and the bits of pants. Most of this is going to be overcoated with a thin layer of metal paint, thinned metal. But today is a relaxing painting day, which means that everything is just brown. What's this done? These side things look like they're part of the beard, but I think they're part of the gas mask. No, I'm wrong. They are part of the beard. They're braided. The beard is braided. Oh, that's really neat. so they get to play at retirement homes. But if you're playing 60s rock, then that's it's really sad to think that classic 60s rock is just nostalgia music. But it is unfortunately the case that it is just nostalgia music. But so they must get together like once a week and practice. What does your father play? What instrument? Not watching chat. Ole Brager's father, who is 78, is the youngest member of a tribute band that plays 1960s music. That's pretty amazing. If I had any kind of talent at anything, I probably would do something like that. It's either fortunately or unfortunately, it's hard to tell exactly whether it's unfortunate or not. I don't have the musical skills. So when I was growing up, that's really cool. So if I were actually able to play an instrument, that's what I would play. I would play the bass. Now, does he play? I have to ask this: bass guitar, or does he have an upright bass? Probably bass guitar because it's 60s music, but you never know. So I'll ask just to be sure. Yeah, but if I had musical talent and played an instrument, I'd play the bass guitar. It seems just like the best thing. Mm-hmm. And do they turn up the amps way too loud? I bet. I that would be say, oh yeah, everybody's hard of hearing. We have to crank it up to 11, as the excuse, for doing that. Actually, take advantage of it, the opportunity. So I grew up in Polish German household. Okay, a long, long time ago, and unfortunately for me, my dad thought that the instrument of choice at that time was the accordion. I mean, what could be better than having your kid be an accordion player? Because I don't know. I don't I mean that was just it. Everybody in the whole neighborhood was a Polish German neighborhood, right? So if anybody played an instrument, they played the accordion. Fortunately, my brother, who's a little bit younger than me, escaped that and learned how to play the guitar and actually got pretty good at it. And he was part of a band in grade school. up through middle school, what would have been middle school. They were actually really good. Everybody just did covers of everything. Nobody paid any attention to copyright rules. That I guess they call them, tribute band, right? But he got to play lead guitar, and he was really good at it. And I got to play accordion, and it was so. By the time I got to like 5th grade, it was nobody plays the accordion. Nobody listens to it, which was actually pretty fortunate for me because I was not very good at it. For some reason, I just never figured out how to. Thanks for dropping in. I really appreciate it. I'll be back on Wednesday for I'll be doing more painting of these guys. So thanks for dropping in. Yeah, so it was like at that point in time, so, finally even my dad figured out that the accordion was not the instrument du jour. So I think, for him, it was kind of unfortunate. He spent a fortune. I found out later, just a huge amount of money on the accordion that I was playing. And on accordion lessons. And all of that went for 2 reasons. One reason is that the accordion went out of fashion and nobody would admit to playing it anymore, except for this one guy on the Lawrence Welk show who still played it. And the other was, it turned out that I had no talent. I mean, absolutely, like, it wasn't like negative talent. It wasn't so bad that that it was painful to hear. Okay. I mean, it wasn't that bad. I could have been doing like a stringed instrument, or worse yet, like a trumpet or something. And at my skill level, it would have been banishment. Okay, every time I played it. But it wasn't bad. It wasn't that bad. In fact, there were a couple of songs I learned how to play just out of, brute force practice. Like my grandmother's favorite song was La Paloma, which I guess was okay on the accordion. There are some songs that are okay when they're played on accordion. But pretty much I was terrible. Just never learned how to, as you say, read music. Couldn't translate the notes on the page automatically into notes on the instrument. And it was a laborious process, looking at the music on the page and translating it into, basically in my head, I had to translate it into the letters and then recognize it on the instrument, like one note at a time. It just took forever to learn a song because it wasn't an automatic process. It wasn't like understanding words or anything like that. It was like if you like pretend you were learning another language, right? And the only way you could translate it was like word by word. and you had to look up each word all the time, almost every time. It was kind of like that. I'd see a note on the page and I'd have to look it up and translate it into a place on the accordion keyboard. It was unpleasant. Anyway, I learned a couple of songs just by brute force. As I said, it's kind of how I had to do it. And but then the accordion went out of style and my lack of talent didn't matter. It's a little bit unfortunate in that Zydeco came in after a while, and there's an accordion in that, kind of a major instrument, a major part of it. But by then I had given it up completely. So I probably could have, resurrected the instrument because it wasn't an embarrassment to know how to play the accordion. It would have been kind of cool. Anyway, that's my musical history. And I'm talking about that because his father, who is 78, is still playing in a band. And I'm not. I am keeping this on camera, though. That's pretty cool. And usually I don't always do that. So when I start painting detail on here, like the pants and the beard and stuff, I'm recognizing that I'm going to have to use my 2x magnifiers because I'm not seeing the detail very well, like where the armor is and where the pants are. You'd think I should because the detail is printed pretty well on this, but no, I can't. Checking to see if there are any obvious flaws in the print. The ones that aren't obvious, I don't care about. Keep putting brown paint on it. Anyway, that's my musical history. Develop accordion, playing Polish, German neighborhood. It was, though, because we always had these shows. There were Christmas shows, and in grade school, I'm talking about. We put these on for the parents, right? And until other kids in the class took up the accordion, thankfully they did after a while. I was the only known instrument player, and so they made me play in front of an audience, which was, just say I had to practice a lot because I had to learn these songs like note by note. Hi, things are going pretty well today. I am doing relaxing painting because I'm doing the undercoat, the base coat, on a whole pile of minifigs, which consists pretty much of me just putting brown paint on about 90% of the surface, most of which will be painted over with other paints, but like the base coat is just this brown color. So it's pretty relaxing because if I get paint on places that aren't going to be brown later, it doesn't matter because they get painted over. So it's sort of pretty much relaxing. I just need to not miss any spots. So most of this brown is going to be second coated with very thinned out dark aluminum metallic paint to make it look like this. Yeah, so what happens is these little minis, for the most part, are like a 3-step process. There's this base coat, and then a thin coat of metallic to make it look, the brown shows through so it looks like it's rusted. So sometimes you can make things look rusted by painting it metallic and then brushing on a brown, like dry brushing or washing it. In this case, our artist's daughter, who knows what she's doing, says the best way to do this is, I see there's a little string from the printing thing there. The best way to do this is paint it brown and then put the metallic over it. You can see it in one direction, but not the other. And it ends up looking like this, which is pretty cool. Kind of like that. You can see the brown shows through the metallic. And then there's a little detail painting on it later, like the beards get painted and the blue pants in the front of the shield. But a lot of that is painting over this. And some of the detail is enhanced by a wash, which is a very thin paint. Piece of dust or something there. A piece of plastic. A very thin paint that fills in the deep spots and leaves the upper parts lighter color. There are also, I think maybe you're referring to speed paints. Speed paints are kind of weird. It's like two kinds of pigments in a solvent, and one pigment is just heavier, I guess I'll say, and when it's painted on, the heavier pigment goes into the crevices and the lighter pigment stays on top, and so you can get a detail effect with just one coat. And we don't have any metallic speed paints. I think they exist. Just haven't invested in finding them. But if there were, then that would be one way to do this, is if it were a metallic with a brown undercoat. But the process here is to put brown on everything, put a metal color on top of the brown, and then paint some of the detail like the pants, and there's a little area here between whatever the forearm and shoulder armor where the blue undershirt shows through. And after all of that is painted, then the whole thing is washed in a dark gray wash to weather it, basically. And then the front of the shield, The front of the shield is painted azure and silver like this. Mm-hmm. Yep, that's how it works. The darker colors are like shadows, or sometimes it's used to show like wear, or something is worn a little bit, or if I almost knocked it over. If I knocked it over, it would have broken something. That would have been not good. Sometimes when we've done things like tents, a tent for like a scatter piece for the show, the D&D show, the wash can be made to make it look like it's parts of it were got wet, you know, and so dirt dripped down. Some excess plastic there. I'm not that good at shading. I think that's what the process is called, is shading, to get the shadows and the wear patterns done. Kind of like my musical talent, or lack thereof. I'm not that good at it. Nicole is really good at it. She's a trained artist, and so, can see exactly what it's supposed to look like, and then applies the wash or the paint in just the right amount and just the right place, and just zip zip, and it's done, and it looks amazing. My painting is more arduous, like my musical skill was, and so a lot of when I paint things are not shaded all that much. They don't show wear patterns or shadows. I've been told they look sort of cartoonish, which I guess is okay. But like this is one I did a while ago. I can get the colors in. I can, kind of blend the colors and they look all right. But I suppose, somebody else would. Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, so the colors, the gradients are, I think it came out okay. One color kind of flowed into the other on the wings. But somebody who is really skilled would probably get like another wash on it, and bring out the feather details even more. I did use a wash on the body. There's a scale pattern on it, and so I put a very light gray wash over the blue base coat to try to highlight the scales. Anyway, I think this came out okay. And then this is a totally different kind of beast. This is just a giant moss monster that's kind of growing up out of the ooze underneath. And what happened there, it was just like dry brushing the red and over the base green color. That was kind of fun. But most of my models end up looking kind of like this, you know. As I said, I've been told they look clean and almost cartoonish. So I can get the colors right, and I get the colors in the right place all right. But anyway, I have to say, personally, I kind of like them like this. But they don't end up looking like this, which is one that Nicole did, with all the shading and detailing on it. Well, that was clumsy. Yeah, that's that's kind of the look that whenever I do them, they're kind of like that, like they're from an anime kind of, or an animated, something animated is what they look like. Anyway, I kind of like them that way. And it's like a color by number kind of thing almost. I'll just call it, that's my style. There. That'll do. I have a painting style. And that's it. But these guys are supposed to look well worn, like they've been out in battle for a big long time. So to figure out how to use the wash to make them look worn out and filthy, except for the fronts of the shields. For some reason, they're real careful about the fronts of their shields. At least I know that I can't mess it up at this stage. That if I get brown where I don't want brown, I can paint over it later. So the main thing is for me right now is to make sure that that I'm not missing any spots, like the front of the foot there. And if worse comes to worse, if I am showing myself to be incapable of getting it right, Cole can always take over and correct any problems that I've created by my lack of skill here. So the difference is that she's an artist and I kind of am like a paint by numbers person. I guess that's one way to maybe describe it. So there. What have I got? I've got halfway through. There's one here with the baton is broken, and there isn't a piece for it. It looks like it just never got. Doesn't look like it broke off. It's like it just never got printed. Yeah, I'll paint it anyway. Maybe it'll be used in the show, maybe not. So these minifigs are being painted for a Dungeons and Dragons show, because Dyson Dungeons does a Dungeons and Dragons show, and it streams with a live chat on most 3 Sundays a month. You have to check social media for the exact schedule, but it's like 3 Sundays a month, and it's a really cool show. It's very good, I have to say so, even though I am part of it and might be biased. I do believe that we are quite entertaining. And our DM, Alexis, has put together an amazing world in which our adventures take place. It's really kind of fun. So these, I am told, represent soldiers from one of the many groups of people we have ticked off. We're not bad people in our show. We just sometimes, do things that upset other people. Like this particular group of people, we recovered an item that they had stolen a long time ago. They say that we stole it, but no, it was a recovery operation. It was taking back what was rightfully not theirs, but they're upset about it. So I guess I have to say that we have made some enemies. Doing the right thing, just doing the right thing, and you end up making enemies. Just go figure. Anyway, these particular soldiers. You're working on a character sheet. Cool. Well, after you're done with it, you can tell me a little bit about your character. So in the course of things, we recovered an item that they had taken that they then claimed we stole from them, and they're upset about it. And that's why they all look alike, because they're part of like an army. They're in uniform. I'm a little, not to try to give away anything in the show. We would not be surprised as characters if we were accosted by members of this family from whom we did not actually steal something, but just took it back. But I'm a bit disturbed by the number of them. If there were like 3 or 4 or something, that would be one thing, but there's 10. And that's a lot. There's just a piece of plastic there that had been left over from the printing process. So you're going to give is this like your first campaign, your D&D campaign? That's pretty good. I think you will enjoy it. It will be, as you get into it, it's important to know the rules and the mechanics of battle and things like that. Okay? Because that's all, you want to follow the rules of the game, but the real fun in D&D is becoming your character. It's not just numbers on a page, but it's the way you act and react to things and interact with each other. So, like my character in D&D is a furbog fighter, so I have a lot of strength and pretty decent agility. Not stupid, okay? My intelligence is up there pretty high, but my charisma is almost non-existent. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Ignore it if it means fun. And so, yeah. So my character like totally lacks charisma. And so, they'll do things like we're meeting some new people, so they send me out to do it, right? And so I have to play the character as, let's just say, socially awkward, which just makes for a lot of fun play. I also have, because I have no charisma, I have no, what's that, like a hair? There it is. It's a hair on the brush that I could only see from one direction. So I have absolutely no ability to do persuasion. My persuasion skills are It's actually a -1 on my dice roll, which is not a good thing. Okay. So when I'm trying to persuade somebody and my persuasion skill is a -1 on the roll, it usually doesn't go all that well. But my character keeps trying to persuade people. It's basically, like, you who are attacking us, you must stop now. Well, roll a persuasion check. And I usually roll like 3s and 2s and stuff. 3s very often. I roll a lot of 3s, and so that's 2 on persuasion, which is low enough so that, it's not just ignored, but it's sort of like laughed at. Anyway, yeah. The numbers on your character sheet are a guide to how your character should behave. And if your players can get into if your players can really get into character, then it really gets to be a lot of fun. Sometimes it's kind of fun to have it. Well, if you rolled all good numbers, that's pretty good. It makes, depending on, what your role is in your party, it might be really critical. But sometimes it's kind of fun to have, you roll a bunch of high numbers for your skills, and then you've got a 6. And you have to pick which one of your skills is going to be laughable. I mean, not just terrible, but just laughable. And then make sure your character leans into it. It's not all that bad to have a weakness, not necessarily in combat or something, but just in terms of gameplay. Yeah. 7. There you go. So that's, it sounds like you're approaching this game with the right attitude. Yeah. So my character ends up by default, being the first, standing in front of whoever's attacking us and getting beat up on. But at the same time, playing off its lack of charisma. Attempting to persuade the attacker to stop or something like that. Anyway, we have a lot of fun. It's if you're interested, our Dice and Dungeons is on YouTube, and you don't have to catch our live chat stream on Sunday at 2, because for some people that's not a convenient time. But it might be fun, for you to catch a couple of episodes on YouTube and enjoy it along with us. Some of our most fun happens in non-combat situations. We always enjoy. Oh my. Okay. So you just say that's a disaster in terms of character creation, but it might not be. But those are exceptionally horrible numbers. And I think, give it a go, right? Why not? Assign them to your different characteristics, and then your party will have to learn how to make the best of it. And that player might have a really good time role playing the skills or lack of skills that were rolled. And then it's up to the DM. You know, the DM is the one who has to create situations in which, you know, in which those characteristics of the player are actually part of the fun. So that'll be a little bit of a test of the DM's skill as well. Yeah. The DC save on what? On re-rolling? On luck? On persuasion? Agility? I mean, what the heck, you know? It is what it is, and maybe that will just be more fun than anything playing that character. Did I miss a spot on this? Yeah. I'm going to have to go back over these and check them. Like I said, I'm base coding it, and everything is supposed to be brown. So the only thing that matters at this point is whether I missed spots, and of course I did. Oh, just start it all over again. Well, you know, that's a choice you as a group need to make as to whether that's something that you'll allow or not. And you don't want to just like arbitrarily make a decision. What you want to do is make a decision based on how the game's going to go. I had a paladin. For some reason, I played a paladin once, which is not my favorite kind of character. I usually have played a cleric. So this time around, I decided to, be a fighter, which was a thing I never really had done before. But one time I decided to be a paladin, and had roles similar to that. And so what I decided to do was put my lowest scores into intelligence and charisma. Okay. So it was actually kind of fun to play, but really, really annoying for everybody else. I was kind of left out sometimes, but I had just a really low intelligence, very well-meaning, but ineffective paladin who just always went around looking for evil. I must fight evil. I can't get the voice right. I had the voice down really well once, a long time ago. I must fight evil. I must search out evil so that I can do battle against evil. Are you evil? Oh, no. Well, then I will not fight you. Are you evil? Oh, no. Well, then I will not fight you. Are you evil? Oh, good. Then I will do battle with you. I mean, that kind of thing. And it was just really fun playing this very well-meaning, not very bright, highly focused paladin. It was also a lot of fun being so annoying in the character that I was often given side quests so that they didn't have to deal with me. Anyway, that was kind of fun. Well, thank you for the follow. So, yeah, whether or not you let a player re-roll their character really depends on whether or not the DM thinks that they can make the campaign and the interaction among the characters fun or not. I mean, if the bad scores just mean it's just going to be awful, you know, every time you run into a knoll, you're half dead, you know, or you can't role play your character effectively, then it makes sense to say, "Yep, try again." But if it can make it fun, then live with it and play through it. So, what did you decide to do? Did you get to re-roll or not? Well, that's a fun thing, is not being able to understand what's going on. When I played my really dumb paladin, my not very bright paladin, what I found was fun to do was to act like I did understand the language. And so, as you might imagine, that resulted in, hilarious misunderstanding. So I was able to play the character so that I acted as though I understood what was being said, even though I didn't understand the language. But I could misunderstand in an entertaining way. And I can't think of any specific examples of the dialogue that happened right now, but you can begin to imagine what that would be like. Like you go into a restaurant, right? And someone comes up and wants to take your order, and you don't understand what they're saying. So you say, "Yes, it is particularly fine weather today. I'd like to have a seat outside." They get upset with you because you didn't know what they were talking about. But maintaining a stance of being in good humor as they got upset, you would say, "Oh, have I offended thee in some way?" Anyway, not understanding the language can actually be kind of fun. And maybe it'll lead to something dangerous. You might offend them and they'll challenge you to do a duel. But not understanding the language, you'd have no idea what was going on. That would be a challenge, a real challenge for the DM to role play that. So did you end up letting them re-roll the character? Or are you just going to run with it? Really bad roll. I mean, you could do fun things too. Like you could try, like if you started out with the character with a really bad role like that, okay, and then they were really, if they were having fun role playing, but and it's possible you just couldn't make it work. The DM just can't make it work because, you know, certain skills are necessary and they're not there. Okay. You could figure out a way. Huh. Oh, okay. He got lucky with his. Can I re-roll DC? Okay. I was just thinking, though, it might have been kind of funny. It could start with the player with those bad stats, and if it just didn't work in the campaign, come up with some sort of implausible reason why they would suddenly wake up with a totally different skill set. You know, like it turns out that they were dreaming, right? Just a simple trope like that. They were dreaming, and they were dreaming that they were terrible at everything. And what a horrible nightmare. And then they woke up with a different skill set. You know, just something, you know, I mean, that's kind of trite, but I'm old and not very creative. Yeah. I've actually had that happen too, where I've re-rolled. I was permitted to re-roll because the DM said, your stats are so bad, you're unplayable. Because I roll a lot of low numbers. There, in our campaign, one of the really early episodes, I think we're very far along now in terms of numbers of episodes. But in one of them, there was, the DM said it was just, needed to fill some time in the show. So there was like a throwaway combat. We ran into some little spiders or something trivia that was just going to fill like 10 or 15 minutes of the show with something before the plot was advanced. And they nearly killed us. Our rolls were so bad. All of us in the party kept rolling numbers that were so bad. That we just barely survived. It almost had gotten to the point, the DM said, I think this is sort of the case, that she had to have like a roving band of guards or something come upon us and save us. Sometimes that happens. Sure. What do you have? What is your character, first of all? I'm taking a look at the chat screen here. And if you're just listening, well, if you're watching, you can see the chat screen. But what is your character, first of all? There's somebody who's starting a D&D campaign with a brand new character and just finished a roll for the characteristics of the character. So we might be finding out what they are. A lot more interesting finding out about somebody's D&D character versus the trauma of growing up playing the accordion. I shouldn't really say it was trauma. I can just say that. Parts of it were unpleasant because, oh boy, okay. Dragon, oh, brass dragons are cool. Yeah, dragon barbarian. So that'll be a fun character to play. What abilities have you got? You know, it's fun to have a backstory that, and if you've got opportunities during gameplay to just dis- have everybody discover it, you know, to not reveal it all at once, but to have it come in the revelation of the backstory as part of the gameplay. So you're getting okay. So you're probably starting fairly well equipped. Oh yeah, I have a. That's my charisma. That's a good combination. Um, Depending on how they have you play. See, as a barbarian, I don't know. Do you have another character that can be like a tank? You know, to take the damage because your constitution isn't that high, so you probably don't want to be taking all of the blows. But you should be able to be doing pretty decent damage if you get into combat situations. I'm guessing you've got like you probably have like heavy armor. Okay, so that's kind of an opposite character. You know, Dragonborn. Okay, that's kind of cool. So Dragonborn would be expected to have high charisma, just as you said, like a characteristic of Dragonborn themselves, but you don't, which means that the people around you, including maybe the other players, have preconceived ideas based on the stereotype of the Dragonborn, and you don't meet them. So that could make for some good role playing. That could be a lot of fun. Um, I'm guessing you got fairly good armor. Are you starting out with like plate or something, like a plate or chainmail? Um, some sort of melee weapon. I'm going to guess. I'm just guessing. It's always cool to have someone in chat who's developing a character or a new D&D campaign for everybody else. Okay, that's playing against type as well. That's really cool. You're going to have an uncouth dragonkin, dragonborn, maybe dressed in finery, so that your behavior and your clothing don't match. That could really throw off everybody. That's a fun thing to do, is to have expectations that are not met. Right, right. You can have fun with that as you play. Well, you don't have to wonder too much. I mean, oh yeah, but if flame, oh my, I'm just thinking out loud here. You've got flame breath and you're uncouth. What what if, sometimes you flamed at inopportune time moments, like kind of like a belch, right? Oh, and then you set something on fire because, why not? That would be, I don't want to tell you what to do. I was just thinking that would be kind of a fun thing to have happen sometimes, is that flame breath would just sort of, sometimes just happen. But for the most part, I mean, how can flame breath not be a good thing? Fire resistance would be, I don't know. Yeah, okay, that was funny. You need to avoid certain kinds of food, huh? Just checking for missed what time is it anyway? 11:30. Okay. Well, that since it's only 11:30, that means that I'm going to need to on to the next stage of painting here. It's a burning burp. Well, as I'm looking at this, since this is still a relaxing session, um, the the metallic is going to go on places where it shouldn't as well. Some of the spots that are going to be painted blue later on. But I can paint those blue later on, because I'm going to have to put I have these magnifying glasses kinds of things, or they look kind of funny, but they go in front of my eye. Yeah, that could happen. And make sure no one knows it's coming. I mean, in combat, flame breath is certainly a cool thing to have, but in other situations, well, maybe not so much. But it sounds like a pretty fun character, especially, you know, sort of high strength, pretty good intelligence. That's always important. You don't want to be like incapable of figuring out how to get through certain things, but the low charisma with the dragon. The dragon kid. That's going to be a fun combination to play with. You know, I'm not sure why, and there's magnets buried in the bottoms of these things. Oh my. Uh-huh. Yep, and you'd have to play that straight. I mean, if that happened, whoever was downwind of your belch would have to take the damage. Oops. That would be a nice opportunity for an oops. Okay, well, I think I'm done with the brown. Should have kept track which ones were in what order, because some of these still have wet paint. I think these are the ones that are wet up here. But at this point, I have to say, look at this and look at that, and it's hard to imagine this turning into this. But that's what's supposed to happen next. And that's the magic is supposed to be the metallic color going over the brown. So let's see if I can pull that off or not. I'm probably going to go, well, if the metallic works okay, if I can get the technique down so that this, okay, I was talking about the magnets in the base of these things. Anything metallic, like a alligator clip, or in that case, an X-Acto knife, which was not a good thing because it fell on my leg. Fortunately, not point down. If this ends up looking sort of like that after I apply some metallic paint, then I'm going to silverify, metalize. I'm going to paint these with the metallic paint, and then maybe end then. But if it doesn't work, I don't know. And if worst comes to worst, we can just paint over them brown again and start over. Yeah. So this next step is important because it makes this look like that, more or less. There's a wash on top of this, so it's not going to look exactly like that, but it'll come close, hopefully. I watched this be done when Nicole did it, so see if I can sort of replicate it. I'm not sure how this is going to go. So this is metal color. It's designed for airbrushing. It's designed to be airbrushed onto airplanes, basically, like big surfaces, like wings and fuselages. We've been using it for a lot of detail because that flows on really nicely. It covers really well. It doesn't show brush marks that much. In this case, it's already thinned down for use by airbrush, but the look is supposed to be sort of transparent so that the brown shows through to make it look kind of rusty. So this is going to be thinned further. And then, I don't know, let's see what happens. So it'll either go well or it will end in tears. I've got this thinner, which is designed for these kinds of paints, and pretty much cutting it in half. I don't know if you can see it, but the thinner mixes with the solvent and the paint, and the little metal pieces just keep moving. It's almost like a dance that they're going through. It's kind of fun. It's kind of cool looking. Anyway, because it's really thin, the tiny little metal particles settle. And so I'm just going to have to stir it with this. Well, I'm going to just start putting it on. Pretty much everything. There are parts that are going to be brown, just brown leather like the gloves. But if metal gets on them, that's really okay. Because I'll just touch them up. I guess this is going okay. It's silvery. At least that much is being accomplished, is it's becoming silverier. No harm done anyway. Not sure if this is exactly how it's supposed to be or not, but yeah, it's very shiny at this point, and so the dark wash on it is going to be important because it's just way too shiny. But the dark wash will tone it down quite a lot. They say hopefully. My expectation is that it will. But I think it's accomplishing the it's like it's rusty underneath. So I'm going to just do this with all of them. What's it going to hurt, right? I need to go back at some point and repaint the gloves and the back of the boots where it's just leather. But it's just easier for me at this point to it's actually kind of working pretty well. It's thin enough so that it's going through in different spots, so it's kind of uneven. Yeah, I think this is okay. I think this is coming out okay. I'm actually kind of surprised because mostly when I do things, it's a surprise if it comes out okay. Just try a little bit, and then do this same thing to this one. Yeah, this if you can see it, it's like bubbling and moving. We should sparkling and like waves across it. The effect is really cool. I'm talking about the paint in the well there. So I need to get more. I have to stir it up because the pigment part just sort of anyway, it settles out. Well, the best part about this is the movement of the paint, the pigments sliding around all over inside the paint there. That's the highlight of today's stream. Is the dancing paint. I don't know what else to call it. It's really weird. I'm glad this doesn't take any skill to do. If I had to be real skillful in the application of the metallic paint, then these guys would be in real trouble. But as it is, it seems to be doing what it's supposed to do, which is to make it look like rusted armor. And at the same time, we have very entertaining dancing paint in here, in the well. That's not bad. It's not too bad. Scale mail. Okay. Actually, scale mail is pretty cool armor. And it makes sense that a dragonkin would have that. So you're starting out pretty well. Yeah, your AC is decent. So you can have, yeah, you can get into somewhat pretty dangerous combat right off the beginning. So has your DM'd much before? Have they experienced DMing, or is this the first time around for them as DM? It should be a lot of fun, playing it for the first time. Especially, follow the rule book until it's not fun and then have fun instead. If you go into it with that attitude, that'll be really good. It's always, for me, I don't know if it's for everybody else, but for me, the fun part has always been the role playing part of just getting into a character. And in our D&D show, our Dice and Dungeons D&D show, that I think that's why it works really well, is because we have all, as players and as the DM who plays NPCs for us, really become our characters, and it just makes it a whole lot of fun to do that. One of our players is a Tabaxi bard who is just really very loud, just shouting all the time and just stays in character. And my character finds that pretty annoying, but so it goes. Yeah. So staying in character and acting like your character would act during the game, I think is just the most fun part. At least for me and for the people we're playing with now. Yeah, I think this is coming out okay in terms of what's getting painted here. A bit of this paint goes a really long way, so I'm spending a lot of spending time getting it off of my brush, almost as much as getting it on. I haven't painted minifigs in quite a while. This painting stream started because we make our own dungeon tiles. I'll show those to you after I'm done getting the silver on these guys. We make our own dungeon tiles on the 3D printers back here. Yes, that would be really good. And because you've been out in the wilderness for a while, and so everybody will expect a highly refined dragonkin, and they'll get you instead. That'll be good. So so we do our own dungeon tiles, which appear in our D&D show when we get into sewers and warehouses and manor houses, and sometimes actually even dungeons, stone dungeons and things. And this stream started because we hand paint them all for the show. And our DM thought, well, why not stream the painting of it? And I thought that's a dumb idea. But we got talked into it because we're painting them anyway. I mean, so it wasn't any extra work except for the very, very low tech, not studio that we are given here. Because this isn't the show, we have a real studio set up for the show. This is a ring camera and a leftover microphone. Highly unsophisticated, lack of equipment, kind of. So anyway, that's how this got started. And at one point, we ran out of dungeon tiles and minifigs. And so if you look at older episodes, turned into model building. And I constructed a model that I built when I was a kid in grade school from like 1965 or 66 or something. No, probably earlier, like 64 or 65. So Renwall submarine where the hull folds down and you can see the interior detail of the submarine. And it, that's how that happened. And without any minifigs, I had been working on an Apollo model. So I'm going to be gone next week. But when I return, assuming I finish these this week, and I probably will, when I get back the week after next, I'll be here Wednesday and Friday this week. Jump around a little bit to be clear. I'll be here Wednesday and Friday this week, but then I'll be gone next week. And then when I get back, I'll be working on the Apollo again. So after I get this silver on all of these, this is number, this is the fifth one. This will be halfway through. And I'm going to show off our dungeon tiles. I like to do that during the stream because they're really cool. To pay attention to what I'm doing here, because I was missing spots. And then I'll show the Apollo model instructions just so people can see what those are. This is coming along okay. Not, I need to do, after I do this, I'm going to start doing detail work like the pants and the beard and things. But for now, it's looking like it's supposed to look. I'm going to go back over the ones I just did. I have to make sure I'm getting the edges of the shield. Because if not, they're going to look crappy. May end up looking crappy anyway, but no sense making them crappier than they need to be. Okay, what I'm liking is that you're just going to flame on as a character and become unapproachable. Is this the one I just did? I'm losing track of what I've done and not done here. So if I miss some spots with the silvery paint, it'll just look like they're especially rusty. Whoa, okay. I almost broke the baton. Oh, thank you. Welcome, new follow, crab cakes. Crab cake, you need to watch some of our previous episodes of our D&D campaign, because one of our recurring themes is the tangy crab restaurant. Yep. And I mean, there you are. And one of the places we visited was Krebsstadt, which was a place where they hunt dire crabs and then sell the meat. So there's a fair amount of crab theminess that has run through several episodes of our D&D campaign. Somebody's shouting at somebody upstairs. I'm not sure what's happening. I don't know if you can hear that. This microphone filters out most noises. Like my not studio is basically a workbench. Yes. A restaurant. In our D&D campaign, we are not. I mean, it's not just all wandering around in the woods. Sometimes we go to restaurants. Sometimes extremely fine restaurants like the Arcturo experience. The Arcturo experience is very, very fun because you have the experience of food, but not the actual food. Okay? Because it's the experience of food. But the tangy crab is franchised and appears in many places where we visit. Not only restaurants, but bakeries. Go to bakeries. We are always in pursuit of the perfect pretzel. You just have to thin it a little bit more. It's covering a little bit too much. Thanks for the sub. But yeah, the tangy crab. It has appeared several times during our campaign. We did have some run-ins with some dire crabs near Krebsstadt. And it in Krebsstadt, they have we can get specialty items that can't be gotten anywhere else, is special armor made from the shells of dire crabs. So there were several episodes that were very heavily crab themed. I think one of our characters in the show actually purchased a set of crab armor. And you'll be glad to know, because I'm sure you're wondering, but yes, it's true that it still smells like crabs. Because, I mean, no matter how you try, when you make your armor out of crab shells, you can't ever completely eliminate the odor, aroma, stench. Depends on whether you like crabs or not, of crabs in the armor. Completely escape it. But one of our characters in a bag of holding somehow, I do believe, has a set of Krebsstadt dire crab armor. So I'll do a little bit of promotion here. Our patrons from patreon.com/DiceandDungeons. I have to plug us a little bit. Patreon.com/DiceandDungeons get access to warm-up improv sessions. And in one of the improv sessions, my character was hired by the tangy crab. I got to be a tangy crab worker person. So that was kind of a fun thing to do. Oh, wow. Research. Pacer headquarters. Okay, well, we have experience with that and with not having. So I'll talk about that. In our D&D campaign, we are members of a guild, kind of a mercenary guild. And so there is a headquarters. But the headquarters only has limited purpose. Okay. It is a place where we go to see if we have any jobs. You know, has anyone attempted to contract for us by name? That's a recurring theme. They've asked for you by name. Okay. We are the Midnight Brunch. Why are we the Midnight Brunch? Because that's our name. It has to do with our food centricity. So our headquarters or guild house, or, you know, is a place where we find out if we have another job. And it's also like a motel or a hotel. It's a place where we can have, stay. But more importantly than that, it has a 24-hour buffet. And we frequently take advantage of that. Sometimes, depending on the town that we're in, sometimes the buffet is really outstanding. Sometimes in some of the smaller places, it's not all that great. But it's not a place where we get stuff. Okay? And I think you want to be careful of that, because it's a lot of fun to role play being in a store. Okay. So if you just say, well, I didn't upgrade to my armor, or I want a new weapon or something, and you just go to your headquarters and requisition it, that's okay. But you had a chaotic campaign. The more chaotic, the more fun. We go out of our way to create chaos for our DM. I can't say we go out of our way. It's just in our nature to do that. We are just sort of... There's a tendency to do squirrel, like the DM mentions something. Oh, there's a manhole cover in the street, or there's a pastry shop. Okay. Just sort of something that happens in the campaign, and we just go off on that just completely. Anyway, I was saying about a headquarters is, a headquarters might be kind of a fun place to like get the next job. It's where you get your next quest or something like that. But I would say, just from our own experience, to not use it as a place to gear up. Because what could be more fun than going into a magic shop, right? Go into a magic shop and you never know what you're going to find. Sometimes, and this is something we always are asking about, and sometimes the DM permits it and sometimes not, is the discount bin. You go into a magic shop and you're doing some serious stuff, like you need an enhancement to a weapon, maybe, or maybe they also sell potions. Buying potions is always fun, because sometimes they'll have like free samples, where you get to taste it a little bit to see what it just to make sure that it's what it claims to be, that kind of thing. So that's kind of a fun thing to do. But, there's a serious part to going into a shop, which is to get maybe like weapon upgrades or enhancements or something like that. Magics and potions, they don't have to be the same, but, for the sake of efficiency, you don't have to go to visit too many places. It's not like you need to have a whole shopping mall. Well, that's not a bad thing, though. It's a whole shopping mall. It is you get your serious thing, like your healing potions and stuff, but then you go to the discount bin. And thank you for the follow. So this is something we've done. I don't know, it's kind of a recurring theme, and you don't have to do it, but we found it to be fun. It's like you're in a magic shop that sells potions, and you get your healing potions and your strength potions and stuff like that. But then you go to the discount bin, and what you've got in the discount bin, there's a couple of things that are discounted. One is that they're expired, they're past their best used by date. So you get a good deal, but you're not really quite sure if they're going to work or not. And that's up to the DM when you actually use them. And the other is that sometimes the message is failing to send. I don't know. Sometimes, though, you have unlabeled, like they're in the discount bin because they're mislabeled or unlabeled. If the label fell off or something. And so you get a really good deal, but you're not sure what you're getting. So it depends on how just like random you want things to be or how your DM wants to play it. But what this is a long way of suggesting that if you have a headquarters, that be the place where you get your next mission or quest. Okay. If after you've role played, why is it that you're part of? Why do you have a headquarters at all? How did you form your party? Maybe you got joined up. Maybe you got invited to join or something. But that when it comes to like equipping yourself, that you do it in a store, and then role play being in the store. You can drive your DM crazy by forcing them to role play the shopkeeper as you ask for impossible items, kind of thing. It's kind of fun. You know, look at the rule book. Yeah. What's the rule book for discount bin items? How much past the expiration date is it? What effect does it have on its effect? Oh, yeah. If you don't have a bag of holding, which you shouldn't, because it's an incredibly rare and expensive item, having a place where you can store things is a really good thing. In our game, initially, we were not part of a guild or of any sort, and so we had to go to a bank and rent a safe deposit box and to even sign a contract for it. So we have some items stored from like a year ago in gameplay in some bank in some town that we may or may not ever get back to in a safe deposit box. Oh, what's going to happen when the contract runs out and we're not there to renew it? Oh, well. But yeah, having a place to store things is a really good idea. Well, I mean, that would be okay if you go to your headquarters and they give you, as part of an assignment or a quest that they assign you to, give you some equipment to carry it out. It really depends on if you just want to. I'll just say this: if you want to get on with the campaign, the quest that you're sent on, so that they equip you so that you can do it, or do you want to take some time to role play you get sent on this quest and you're not well equipped and you have to figure out how to get equipped for it. It depends. It really depends on how on what's most important to you in terms of gameplay, getting on with the quest or playing around, solving the puzzle, kind of solving the puzzle of how to become adequately equipped for the task that you were just assigned. And it doesn't matter, but I'm just saying, yeah. I'm glad you're chatting with each other about that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it makes sense too that if the DM wants you to do something, give you a certain assignment or a quest, and there's just no way that you could, in any reasonable or even unreasonable way, get the resources necessary to purchase the items, even in a discount bin, that you're loaned it, that your headquarters or whatever just gives you a loan of the equipment just for that particular purpose. Maybe you have to put down a deposit. Okay, maybe you have to put down a deposit on the lending of the equipment, and then either you'll get your deposit back or not, depending on whether you return it and in what condition it comes back. Not saying that's what you should do, but that's what our group would do. Is if it needed to rent something, there would be a price associated with it and a deposit that would depend on excuse me, on the condition of the return, and of course, those are really good ideas, crab cake. This stuff is drying well enough to move on or not. So I'll take one of these guys up. That's it. Since this is not a how-to show, I just showed you what not to do, which is to grab a piece that probably isn't dry yet and get this is actually, I have to say, very weird that I didn't get paint all over myself. I've painted 10 minifigs with a base coat and an overcoat. Usually by now, I've got paint on my hands, oftentimes in places where I wasn't anywhere near. Like I would have paint here. Why? I don't know. I don't know if this is a good thing or a scary thing that I don't have paint on my fingers. I'm finding that kind of disturbing. Hi, King Poverty. Thanks for joining in. I'm going to digress from painting these guys right now because I'm going to be running a short session today. We are going to be actually working on our D&D campaign in about 45 minutes. I usually go until 2, but I'm only going to go until about 1 today. So I'm painting these minifigs, and they're supposed to end up looking like this. Right now they look like this. What will be happening is that these parts that are painted blue will get painted blue, and then there's some brown touch-up, like on the gloves, where I painted the silver over. I have to repaint it brown, and then bronze on this. And then once all of that is done, everything except the beard and the goggles and the outside of the shield, the way this turns into this is that there's a dark gray wash that goes over the whole thing, which really does a fine job of toning down the shininess of the armor. As you can see, it will make it look like that. But the next steps for me on these models are to paint the breeches and a little bit on the elbows, the blue color, which is the undergarment, and to repaint the hands where the leather, where there isn't any armor, like on the inside of the gloves, okay, and the back of the boots, paint those brown, and paint the shaft of the baton bronze, And once those are done, then I can wash it. And then the detail are the goggles, the beard, and the surface of the shield. And I'll be working on that stuff later. But what I want to do is I want to show off. Well, first of all, I'll explain I'm going to be gone next week. So I'll be back on Wednesday and Friday from 10 until 2 this week. But I want to show off our dungeon tiles, because our dungeon tiles are amazing. So for our D&D campaign, and these guys are going to appear in it at some point, I'm pretty sure, because they represent a family that we have upset. They have become our enemies because we stole back something that they stole. We were the good guys, I guess, but now they don't like us, so they're going to attack us. But we print our own dungeon tiles on these 3D printers back here, and then hand paint them. Like these are painted in a base coat of gray, and the accent stones are put in, and then these will eventually get washed with a gray wash. And these are made to look like wood. So they're primed and then base coated in a brown, and then washed with a really cool wash to make it look like wood grain. You can see how the wood grain comes out. And then the stucco detail is painted on. But the really neat thing about these is that in the bottoms under these plates are little ball magnets in the corners, and so they grab onto each other. And you don't need a special like metal plate or anything. You don't need clips, but they come together and they come apart really well. So our DM can use a whole bunch of these to create all sorts of really cool, things like that. And some of them have doors that are hinged, so they work. And they're painted on the back too, so you can go out. Like this can go into another room, and it looks all finished. And there's even cool things like this tile. This has a cauldron in it, so this could be like a fire mage or something. And if they go flame on, this doesn't, but in real life it has a magnet in it, and then the flame goes in the cauldron. And so our dungeon tiles have all these really cool, like, characteristics, features that when we get into a dungeon really make the dungeon play kind of fun. So I just wanted to show those to everybody. And this stream started with the painting of these dungeon tiles. And as you can tell, this is not a studio. Aren't they cool? I mean, the way you can just rearrange them so easily, and they hold together, so your dungeon doesn't fall apart while you're playing in it, or warehouse or whatever. But at the same time, they're really easy to manipulate. So I wanted to show those off because we have them, and they work really well. And someday, I don't know. Yeah, it's a little bit, a little bit expensive because the little ball magnets aren't cheap, but it makes for a really cool kind of thing to have. So when we had enough dungeon tiles for our show, and minifigs that we didn't need anymore, what we ended up with was me building a model. And the thing I'm working on now, so I'm going to finish these this week, I hope, that I'll get these done Wednesday and Friday during the streams this week. And then I'm off for a week. Yeah. Fog effect. You could do that. That would actually be pretty possible. So when I get back after I'm gone next week, so 2 weeks from now, I'll be going back to working on the Apollo model. This thing is actually really large. From top to bottom, it stands almost 2 feet tall when it's all stacked up. And I finished some of it already. I've gotten the escape tower and the service module and the top part, the ascent stage of the lunar module done. I've got the parts for this fairing completed. And what I'm working on now is the descent stage of the lunar module, the part that lands on the moon and stays there. And then the command module is last. So this model's been coming along fairly slowly because the parts glad you guys are sharing ideas. That's really cool. Okay, well, you're welcome. So the idea is, yeah. So having the DM having the map is really cool, but you only seeing the part that you can see, it works really well too. Anyway, I'm going to go back to building this, and let me show you a little bit of what it's about. I'm waiting for paint to dry, pretty much. This is the descent stage of the lunar module. And what's cool about it is that the real LEM, the real thing that landed, was wrapped in gold foil, and the model came with gold foil. And this is the bottom. It's upside down, but that's how I have to store it. And so I've been doing some extra detail work and wrapping some of the struts in gold foil. And what I need to do is, when I get back to this, is these little bits on the top here, I need to put a cap of gold foil over there to complete the look. But if you saw a picture of the real LEM, and it would be, it's amazing. Just, well, yeah. And then all these little struts and things need to be put together without breaking. So that's going to be fun. Mm-hmm. Yeah, going through a bind, and this tray, these are the parts. These are the parts for the command module, and what you can see is that there's just like bits of plastic everywhere. Just, it's injection molded, and it's very badly done, just really badly done. So when I'm building this model, I'm spending most of my time, wonder if this, oh no, this goes on first. Okay. These are the parachutes. Parachutes sit here like this. And then this goes over it. Anyway, as I'm building this model, if you've been watching this at all, I'm spending most of my time sanding and filing parts that don't fit together. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's kind of fun being able to play with people who aren't there, okay? Because then you can get people, friends to play from all over the world. But it's also kind of fun to, but there are limitations then. When we started our D&D show, we actually did that. It was like COVID time, right? And nobody could get together. And we had two of our players Zoom in. That was a challenge, running a D&D show, not just a campaign, but a show with players offline. But one of our players actually couldn't continue anymore. But yeah, I lost my train of thought. What a surprise, huh? But that happens when you get old. Let's see. I've got maybe a half hour left. I think I'm going to start doing some of the blue detail. I don't know how this will go, but what I'm going to do, I hope these batteries are still working. This is my 2x magnifier. Thanks for joining in. I really appreciate it. And it's been a lot of fun watching people chat with me and with each other about their Dungeons and Dragons campaign. So I will. Oh, thank you. Oh, hydrate. Yeah, I should do that. And I'll stretch after I'm done here. Catch our D&D show. It's really good. Okay, I don't know how far I'm going to get on this, but I'm going to give it a start just to see. These are really weird. So I put these on, and these hit in front of my eyes, and they magnify everything 2 times. And there's this extra little light. See, light, which actually is really helpful in painting detail. I'm nearsighted, so I can see fairly well, up to about 18 inches away, and then everything gets really fuzzy. Yeah, kind of like that, except a whole lot cheaper, but kind of like that. But when it comes down to the detail, I can't see it well enough, so I use these. So I'll put them on there. Now I look weirder than usual. So this is Azure Paint. And I've got a half hour left before I need to finish at about 1 o'clock. I usually go until 2, but I have to wrap up early because we're actually working on our D&D campaign starting shortly after 1. And I can't be doing this and that at the same time. It's limited that way. You can't hear it when I've got a little vortex shaker thing. It's like a miniature version of the thing they use in paint stores to shake the paint to mix it up. And then there's a little metal ball. We bought little ball bearings to put in the paint to help stir it up. So if you see this model, there's metal armor, but around the elbows and the pants, there are places that are not covered in metal armor, and so I'm painting those blue to match the prototype there. But the purpose of these is to be able to see sort of where the edges of the armor are. This will be that really light blue color, which will be significantly toned down when the dark gray wash is put on. It's going to look really bright. Usually I would put this on the sticky tack stand, but I need to be able to turn it upside down and do stuff like that. Yeah, there. The main reason I'm wearing these is I can't see well enough close up to tell where the edges of the armor are. The downside of these is that the flaws in my painting are 2 times bigger than life size, and so they become very apparent. Think about that too much. So after I get this blue paint on, I need to do some brown touching up. There's some places that the gloves, the fingers of the gloves and the backs of the boots are not covered in armor. So they need to be turned brown, represent leather. And then after that's done, this gets washed in a dark gray wash to tone down the shininess of it and to make it look like battle worn and that kind of thing. Oh, yeah, there's more to do. This sort of staff that it's holding is going to be painted bronze, and that gets washed too, so that has to be done. So I'll be doing the blue, and then the brown, getting paint where I don't want it. The blue, then the brown, and then a wash. And the final details, eventually I'll be painting the shield to look like this. And then the beard. Well, I told you, as I said, part of what happens with these magnifiers is that I find spots that I missed a spot there. Part of the gas mask, I think. So every once in a while, I'll do the miscellaneous something or other. I'm not sure if I'll get all the blue on these guys today. Like I said, I need to finish up one so that we can work on our D&D campaign. So keep at this until about 1 o'clock, and then I'll be back again on Wednesday at about 10 to continue working on these minifigs. And I should be able to finish them by Friday. Nicole would have had them done already. The only thing that ever slows her down is waiting for paint to dry. I usually work slowly enough so that the paint dries for me before I get to the next whatever. Camera? Yeah, sort of on camera. I have to check every once in a while. What I've done sometimes in the past is I put like an X here. Oh, I can use this spot. This spot is on camera, so if I'm over here, I'm on camera. Yeah, I put something on the cardboard underneath me here so that I can sort of, without having to look up, tell if I'm on camera or not. So those of you who have just joined can tell that this is not a professional modeling or painting show. I don't have a studio. I've got a workbench with a piece of cardboard on it, a ring camera, a leftover microphone from something else. There's some, used another camera over there. So this is, a place to chat about Dungeons and Dragons. If nobody's in chat, then I chat about stuff from the 1950s and 60s. Got to talk about, the original Star Trek series and what it was like to see that when it first came out. Actually, I didn't get to see it when it first came out. I was really ticked off about that. Excuse me. Maybe not surprisingly, I could tell you that I was a Boy Scout, and our Scout troop meetings were at the same time as Star Trek. That was an unhappy thing. So I didn't get to see the original series until it was like rebroadcast, at least initially. Really hard to tell. Let's say the delineation of the end of the armor and the undershirt on this sleeve is really not well defined. I'm just going to have to make it up here. The elbows are kind of not covered. Oh, that's good. It's way underneath there. Great. No, too bad. I got two down, 8 to go. Definitely not going to finish these all today. Okay, well, this is not defined at all. Guess it's like this. That's how it is. I'm complaining about the lack of definition of where the metal armor ends and the pants begin because of the posture of this particular model. painting the detail here and trying to figure out where the blue paint is supposed to go. Sometimes the model designer is just not very friendly to the painter. And then, of course, it's in a place that, you know, when the show goes on, it's not going to be seen anyway, because it's in the bottom, unless he falls over something. Use this tiny brush here. It is on camera. Okay. Every once in a while, I'll look up to see if it's on camera. This is very poorly defined under here. I'm just going to have to make a decision about where the undershirt is showing and where it isn't. An arbitrary decision here. Is now decided. And in the front, his arm is bent like that, so it's another spot that needed some of this silvery kind of paint on it. These guys are wearing gas masks. Paint it silver. Okay. It's getting to the point where I'm dropping things. That's always an exciting part of this stream. Usually it happens after break, but I'm not taking a break today because it's a shorter session. But usually after break, I don't know, my focus starts to fade and especially my hand coordination starts to fail. And then I start, that's when the oops happens. The oops is the event where, like, I drop a brush and get paint all over something that's already been painted. Okay. I mean, that will happen. Or I'll be moving the paint brush up to the surface or away from it. And I'm painting like a little detail and I go, I got that just right. And as I move the paintbrush away, I bang it into something and put a big splotch of the wrong color right over something that had been nicely painted. Anyway, it's something that one can always look forward to on this stream is the oops moments, which usually happen after break. But since I didn't get a break today, they're just going to happen during the last 15 minutes. On Wednesday, I don't know, this is moving along more slowly than it probably should. This being the application of the blue paint on the blue leather undergarment section of the armor here. That is to say, the part that isn't armored. Really unnecessary detail of these models. Wow. There's like a whole bit in the underarm here that didn't ever get painted at all. And I'm going to put the metallic on it. It's like like I said, I sometimes will miss a spot. I missed the whole underarm here. That was pretty. It was a pretty big miss. Yeah, I'm sure how long I should go. I'd kind of like to be able to get all this blue done, but I'm not. I don't know if I have enough time. Like you can't get here from there. I'd like to believe that if you can't reach it, you can't see it, but that's not the case. Yeah, you can't see what I'm doing. I'm painting the model's crotch. What can I say? Pants show there. Can't hear their voices, but they're getting upstairs. They're getting ready to do what needs to be done in our D&D campaign. So, regardless of how far along I actually am, I am going to have to wrap up at 1:00. Clean up the paint, clean the brushes, put some stuff away, and then get ready for what we're going to be working on. Maybe even eat something. That would be a good thing to do. Have a little bit of food before working on stuff. Oh, I missed the sides of the face on practically every one of these. There wasn't any need to be careful. It's annoying. Okay, this one is not just ill-defined, it's not defined at all. So I'm just going to have to make up a little blue just to suggest that that's what's there. Okay, well, there's that. Guess I'll do maybe one or two more. Getting so close to getting them done. If I were faster at what I'm doing, then I would be done, but nope. Slow because I am slow. The pants part isn't necessarily hard to do. It's just trying to figure out where the plate mail ends and the undergarment begins. And then sometimes just trying to figure out how to get a brush to the spot. I have to remind myself that these are not display level models. Okay, these aren't the kind of things that will be viewed through a microscope under bright light. These are the kinds of things that will appear on camera at a respectful distance. And so some of these things that look like flaws aren't going to show, oh, here's a thing that I need to fix that, because that's going to show once it's painted. There's a, just call it, it's like a tab of plastic on the bottom of the shield here. It's going to show as a, because that's going to be painted silver. That's going to really show and not be pleasant at all. Sometimes that happens, with any 3D printing, is that there'll be bits that little extra plastic. Sometimes something won't print, like the head of one of these batons. It didn't print at all. And sometimes there'll just be an extra bit of plastic. I have to say, though, that the quality of the 3D printing is way better than the quality of the injection molding on the model that I'm working on, the Apollo model. That quality is like horrible, unforgivably bad. Um, We'll stop painting blue now for two reasons. One is the paint is getting gummier and just gumming up on the brush and not flowing very well. Well, maybe I won't stop. Maybe I lied about that. Put that in here. But what I do need to do is I need to get a needle file. I use these a lot with the Apollo model because that has a lot of flaws on the plastic. But what I've got here is, you can probably see it, is right at the base of the shield here. There's, get the angle right. Yeah, you can see there's a little protuberance there that will, when this thing is painted silver, will be very obvious. So I'm filing it off so that the edge is nice and even. So when it's painted, it will look okay. Got 4 of these left. I don't. Well, no one is calling saying, hey, you got to get started. I'm going to just paint the rest of them. What the heck? At least try to get it done. I'm not going to speed up though, because then I will make very serious oopses that will be uncorrectable. To get the rest. Pants. Painted blue. Keep putting my finger on the end of the baton and pushing at it just enough so I could potentially snap it off. Snapping it off wouldn't be all that disastrous because I could cement it back on, but that assumes that I could find the piece. And as I have discovered the hard way, as I have snapped pieces off of models before, they usually go falling onto the floor somewhere and become unrecoverable. And that is not a good thing, because then if I can't find them, I can't glue them back on. That's happened with sword blades fairly often. I have become adept at, it's just like a lump of filth or something there. Like a little lump of dry paint or something. I'm going to take a toothpick and pick it up. I've become adept at fabricating sword blades out of toothpicks to replace the ones that have been lost by breaking off and flying onto the floor and then disappearing into the land of lost socks. Because apparently that's where they go. I'm going to paint the elbows first. I'm not liking painting the elbows. So I get the part I don't like done before the part that I don't like less don't liking. Means to say I don't like doing this more than I don't like doing the pants. Another one of these crooked arm things here where you can't tell where one thing starts and the other one ends. Mutter, mutter, complain, complain. But this is okay, since I'm not being told you must stop now and get to work on this other thing. I'm just going to go ahead and try to get it done. We've got only 2 left after this. Elbows. So I'm going to be wrapping up pretty soon. So I'm getting almost done with painting the blue detail on these. And once that's done, I need to paint the brown detail on the gloves, the fingers of the gloves, and the backs of the boots. Those are the areas that are not covered in metal armor. So those will be painted brown because they're leather. And then this whole thing will get washed in dark gray wash to make it look weathered and just a whole lot less shiny. Not that the shininess is bad, but it's these guys have been out hunting us, for months, and their armor is weathered and that sort of thing. So, yep, just some brown touch-ups on the back of the boots and the fingers of the gloves. It shouldn't be too awful. Here's a spot that was supposed to be painted metal. one of the spots that I've missed. Be shiny, and it's not. Okay, one more to go, and then I can hopefully take a short break maybe get something to eat, and then move on to working on our D&D campaign. I will be back on Wednesday at more or less 10, and I'll be working on these minifigs. Who knows, I might even be able to finish them. Whenever I say that, I end up not. Okay, something just ends up taking way longer than I thought it would. So I say, well, I should be able to finish these. And then I don't. But I'll continue working on them on Wednesday. And what I'll be working on will be the brown detail on the gloves and the backs of the boots, doing the wash, okay, on all the armor. Painting the baton bronze before I do the wash, because that gets washed as well. And after the wash is done and it looks okay, this guy's got like a residual tail or something. That's really gross. Yeah, so what am I doing? I'm going to be doing the brown touch-up on the gloves and the backs of the boots. I'm going to paint the baton bronze. Then I'm going to put the dark gray wash on it. That goes just about everywhere. And after that, I've got the beard, the goggles, and the face of the shield. So there'll be detail painting that'll take, some time because I'm slow at that. So I'll get as much of that done on Wednesday as I can. And when I'm done with these, I will be moving back to the Apollo. Excuse me. Sniffle there. Okay. Make sure I've got, don't see any huge missed spots on this. All right. I can clean these brushes and cough because it's getting cold and damp down here. I can take these off. Let me do that. So these guys are now getting closer to looking like this. Right, the blue's on there. So you can see what will need to happen is that I'll paint the baton bronze and paint the gloves. You can see there, how the fingers, the inside of the gloves and the backs of the boots are brown. So I'll be doing that with the brown paint. And after those two are done, then I'll wash this whole thing in dark gray wash, everything except the face of the shield. Okay. And once that's washed, They'll be putting the green paint on the goggles, painting the beards. Those will all be individual. But I'll probably paint the shields before I do the beards. So I might do the goggles just because they're fun. The green lenses on the goggles. After I do the wash, okay, I might do that. And then I'll paint the shields, and I'll do the beards last. But they're coming along, and they don't look too bad. Got more done today than I thought I would. Yay. I also went an hour longer than I thought I would, but whatever. Thanks, everybody, for joining in. I really appreciate the new followers. Thanks so much, and a subscriber. And I'll see everybody again on Wednesday at about 10 o'clock. So on behalf of Dice and Dungeons, thanks, everybody, and see you then.